From grain to glass, this show is dedicated to helping you make the best beer possible. So strap in and hold on to your mash tuns. We're Homebrew Bound. Welcome to Homebrew Bound. I'm Casey.
And I'm Myles.
And this is the best beer show on the internet.
According to our mothers.
Hey, that one totally worked this time.
It did.
Go us.
Aha.
Go us. So, Myles, what have you been up to beer-related this past week?
I brewed a 3-gallon extract batch with Chad. He was our last guest. And it went pretty well.
Good.
I completely made shit up on the spot.
Nothing wrong with that.
No. We did a 3-gallon batch too, and it was like $30.
Oh, cool. What style?
It was a stout.
It was a stout?
A stout.
What kind of stout?
We did a 3.3 of light LME, 1 pound of light DME, and we steeped with Crystal 60 a pound and half a pound of Special B.
Okay, what style stout were you going for, though?
I suppose.
Because, that sounds almost more porter-like than...
Yeah, I suppose it probably could be a little more porter-like, but dry stoutish.
Okay.
Sort of thing going
for
on.
that dry stout.
Yeah.
What'd you ferment with? Yeast?
Gosh, what did we ferment with? No, wait. I think we took Windsor Ale. Did we?
Windsor Ale.
It was one of the Lullamans.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think it was just Magnum for bitter and some aroma.
Yeah.
It really does that.
Like 30 IBUs or something like that. Maybe not even that.
No, I think we used 1 ounce for 3 gallons.
Oh, wow. So you're going to be a little over-hopped, maybe.
No, only about a third of it was for bitter.
Okay. All right. That's still a lot of hop character for a stout, though, I think.
The bitterness hit within style. I forget exactly what it was. I don't know. Like I said, we were just kind of making it up.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of threw together a recipe. We went there. The stuff wasn't exactly available with what we were looking for. And I'm like, you don't mind if we're just kind of winging it, do you? He's like, no.
He totally minds.
No,
you know he minds.
He totally does not.
Oh, you know what? I just remembered something that I need to bring up here in half a second here.
Go for it.
Sorry. Well, no. It'll wait. I have to find it yet.
Okay.
It's just...
Otherwise, I did yet another beer for the base malts. We talked about base malts a couple weeks ago. And I did 100% Munich 10.
Yeah, I stopped by for that one.
You did. And we kind of talked about it a little bit. But I guess I'll just kind of review for the show here. Yeah. It was just straight 2 pounds for a single gallon batch.
Mm-hmm. I
used German Hallertau for bittering, German Hallertau for hops. A third of an ounce at 60, and then 2/3 for flame out.
Okay.
My efficiency was pretty darn good. I think with my adjusted volumes, I hit right around 80%.
Which isn't bad at all.
No, it's not. But I still ended up with more beer than I intended to, and so my gravity is still a bit low at about 1048.
Okay.
Not quite what I was shooting for, but it's not by any means going to wreck the experiment.
Yeah, for sure.
I used Munich Ale yeast from Lulleman.
Okay.
And it is fermenting away.
Awesome. Very cool.
It's just going to town. So that's been going for like 5 days now. 4 days.
Try 3 days.
3? I don't even know what day it is.
Well, it's Monday. It's Monday. Okay. So when it was Friday night is when you pitched. So 2 days.
I worked Sunday, so it feels like Tuesday to me.
Yeah, but it's not.
I don't look at the calendar.
Calendars. What are calendars?
Exactly.
If it was Tuesday, this episode would be going up late.
Yeah, right.
So I guess by the time people are listening to this, it's been 4 days or 3 days. I don't know.
See, that's what I was working with.
Yeah, that, I'll cover your ass.
So the next thing I'm going to do is just a Vienna IPA.
Okay, that'll be cool.
Yeah, I think so. And so, Casey, what have you been doing beer-related?
Drinking it. Not a whole lot else, unfortunately. I mean, I got that pale ale just boobling away, booble.
Lots of it too.
Yeah, well, 10 gallons of it. Well, only 5 of it's mine, so I don't got to worry about that too much.
12 gallons, I thought, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. But by the time, because I got to dry hop it and stuff like that, yeah, we're gonna lose a gallon to Trub.
Transferring loss, etc.
Yeah, I'm not super worried.
No, not
yeah,
that'll be enough to fill 2 kegs.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, so I got that, and then just been talking beer with some people and whatnot, but nothing super exciting. Yeah, though I was talking with one of our listeners actually. He contacted me after our last episode, and he said it's from Thomas. I don't have permission to say his full name, so I'll just say Thomas. He said, I heard on your podcast today about either using the plastic big mouth bubblers. We got some, and we're using them. And he says that he's heard a lot of people saying that they can't get them to create an airtight seal. And he had the same problem and wanted to share his easy fix. He says using a bit of keg lube on the lid where it sits on the carboy before tightening the collar ring makes a nice seal.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's a genius fix, and so I told him we'd mention it on the air because I don't think I ever would have thought of that.
No, you know what I would have done? I would have gone through the unnecessary, complicated
trying to find a gasket.
And for lack of finding one, probably trying to make one.
Yeah, I would have just not done an airtight seal because it's a fermenter. You don't really need one.
And I also have like a tube of silicone sealant that's food safe. I might have.
But yeah, no, everybody has keg lube sitting around, so that's genius. I love it.
That is
absolutely brilliant. So yeah, thank you for that note, Thomas. And we always love hearing from listeners. So you can get a hold of us on Facebook at facebook.com/blindstudios, or just shoot us an email at feedback@blindstudios.com. And yeah, we'll definitely talk about your stuff on the air. But I guess we should probably talk about our main event for today.
Our main focus
because I think it's going to take a bit of time if we want to do this right.
Yeah, so writing your own recipes. I think I was kind of trying to build up to this. Over the weeks, we've talked about hops plenty. We've talked about yeast several times, but I think that really kind of deserves like its own series of episodes if we really
for sure. Well, and I mean, it's not like we have a limited time on how many episodes we're going to do.
Right, exactly. And I just got done talking through a majority of the grains that are available to home brewers and kind of why they are the way they are and how they're supposed to be used. And so culminating, writing your own recipes.
Yeah.
Exaggerated hand movements for you too.
Woo! Hand movements.
So, assuming you have never written your own recipe, does the idea seem daunting?
Yeah, the first time I wrote a recipe, I was terrified for a couple of reasons. One, it's not the cheapest thing in the world.
No,
when you're doing 5 gallons of beer, and then you could potentially have 5 gallons of beer that are not good.
Yeah, and one of the things I was just kind of taking note in here, especially if you're trying to, or if you're like listening to our show for like the last however many months and then being like, they talk about so much stuff, how do I keep all of this in my head and then try and write a recipe?
Yeah,
which makes sense to me, that just information overload.
There's a lot of information, and so we're gonna at least for this first recipe thing, we're gonna kind of break it down, and Myles and I actually each wrote recipes that aren't great but might be something that somebody might write for their first recipe. And I wrote one for a double IPA. You wrote one for an amber ale. And so we're going to kind of go through these and talk about some of the mistakes that people make when they're first writing recipes.
Yeah.
So
I also have a quick kind of trunky.
Oh, you want to do a quiz?
It's a little bit of a quiz.
Ooh, quiz.
Well, less of a quiz and more it's just kind of notes.
Okay, that's fine.
Just real quick. So, question 1: how can you keep all this information straight? And I think, how would you do it?
How is all this information? I don't. I mean, that's my straight up answer. I'm when I'm creating recipes, The first thing I do is I reread the style guidelines.
Yep.
And then I reach for Brewing Classic Styles by Jamil Zainasheff, and I look at his base recipe for the style, and I kind of build off of that. And I'm like, okay, so this is what he's doing, and where can I go from here to monkey with it a little bit?
Yep. One of the things I have here is first, slow down, take a breath, and then just know that a lot of the things that we've talked about are taken care of for you in many ways, so that you don't have to worry about every single detail we've talked about, and you can use a truncated bullet point for reference to kind of troubleshoot your recipe as to whether or not it'll work.
Yep.
So let's see. Step 1: do you know what you're going to make?
Yeah, that's the biggest. And that, in all honesty, that's one of the hardest things to do, is to decide on broad strokes what style of beer you want.
Yes.
And I mean, you don't have to necessarily stick to the BJCP style guidelines.
But
feel free
is a
to.
Good place to start.
It's a great place to start, and it gives you an idea of what you're working with. And if you're just getting into recipe building, don't do what I call pulling a Myles and start throwing everything in the kitchen sink into your beer.
Yes, I will be getting to that too. Pulling this right from John Palmer. Well,
okay.
Some of this.
All right.
I tried. Okay, so assuming you have some stuff written down for a recipe, is roughly 80% of it your base malt. So I think this is something that a lot of people just kind of don't necessarily know right off the bat looking at recipes, is that the vast majority is going to be base malt. And if you look at 100% of the recipes, that's what they're all going to look like.
Yeah.
So just make sure that that's everything. And then your specialties are kind of like the nuancial icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Are you using specialty grains appropriate for the style? Are you using high alpha hops for bittering and keeping IBUs within proper ratios? And are you using yeast appropriate for your style?
Yeast.
So
very important.
I think this is a very succinct kind of, little checklist you can go through. And if you can say yes to all of these, then you're probably in a good position.
Maybe.
Yeah.
There's still ways to screw up, but you at least have a better base than somebody who's just diving into it for the first time without doing any research.
Yeah, like I did.
There's a reason we call it pulling a Myles.
Yes. No.
And that's not to be derogatory towards Myles. That's just, it's something he did, and he told me about it, and I really find it funny.
It's hilarious. No, it's awesome. Well, if people can learn from my mistakes, all the better.
Yeah, no, that's the way to do it for sure.
All right, so real quick, how much base malt should a person use for their beer? I kind of covered the 80% kind of gray.
80% is a gray area. It really depends on the style that you're making.
Yeah.
And what you consider your base malt, I guess. I mean, we've done the base malt show. We all know what base malt is. But I mean, if you're doing a wheat beer, you could do like 50-50 wheat pills.
Yeah.
And so there's exceptions to every rule.
Or like a pale ale, it could be all base malt.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Yeah.
But I guess a good rule of thumb is at least half.
I like that. At least we're sticking with that.
Yeah.
I've otherwise found very little to like numerical data saying this is what you should try and
it's because there isn't any. It's too vague.
It is, and that's kind of what I was coming up to. Otherwise, I was just going to kind of throw this out there for absolute beginners. If you're writing for a 5-gallon recipe, 8 to 9 pounds, assuming you're going to end up somewhere with a 10-pound recipe for a lot of beers.
Yeah, for a 1060 beer.
Yeah, just right around there. You should be good.
Yep.
And then this is the stuff I was taking right from John Palmer. It's the absolute basic like recipe guide for a couple of different styles.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Aha. So what would you say pale ale is?
The absolute base.
Yes.
For a pale ale. 2-row, hops. Like, I mean, you're looking at a 60-minute edition and probably a flame out edition, and then an American ale strain.
Yep. For his, we're looking at specialty grain specifically. I guess I kind of overlooked that. But he's got for pale ale, 8.5 pounds of 2-row, half a pound of caramel. You got a pale ale.
Yep.
Amber ale, pale ale recipe with half a pound of dark caramel. Brown ale, a pale ale recipe with half a pound of chocolate. Porter, amber ale with half a pound of chocolate, and then a stout is your porter with half a pound of roasted barley. His point being that you can have these absolutely super simple recipes that are just going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can take this as a generic guideline and then go off from there.
Okay.
Otherwise, what hops should I use? I just kind of said, make sure you're using your high alphas for bittering.
Well, you don't necessarily have to use your high alpha for bittering. Well, so the rule of thumb with hops is read the flavor descriptions and find descriptors that either complement each other or, when in doubt, use one hop. Because there's nothing worse than having a well-made beer with conflicting hop profiles.
Yeah. I guess my point was just in general, if you're looking to add the bitterness, you should worry less about what the hop is going to taste like and more about the alpha acids, because there's different points in the boil where the flavor and the aromas start to come out, where that becomes more pertinent.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to say, don't bitter with Hallertau. like I did on Friday, actually. But
don't do what I did.
Don't do it. Yeah. And I think in general,
my microphone over here.
For multi beers, use about 1 to 4 IBUs versus gravity points would be like a really low end, like wheat beer, 12 IBUs, 1045.
Again, check the BJCP and just put yourself right in the middle of that range.
Yep. And then hoppier beers, you can go about 3 to 4 or 1 to 1 for some of the really higher hoppy beers. And what about yeast?
Yeast, when in doubt, go clean.
Yeah. Or just kind of most yeasts pretty much come with the
style descriptor of what they
style descriptors, and I said just go with that.
And I mean, brew for your temperature. If you have no temperature control and it's the middle of summer, 90 degrees out, your basement's at 75, then brew saisons. Dead of winter and your basement's at 40, lagers. So just be a little bit aware of where you're going to be fermenting this beer.
Yeah. So that would be like the absolute basic kind of keep this in mind if you were going to ignore the rest, and you'll probably come out with something pretty decent.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you agree with this?
I agree 100%.
Okay, cool. And then this kind of brings us to our exercise. Yay, a show where Casey prepared first.
It's pretty exciting. So do I get to go first then?
You can go first.
Oh man, all right. So this is my super nifty double IPA recipe.
All right. See, you named yours. I didn't.
I did. So I just threw this together, and there are going to be a few things wrong with it, and we'll see if Myles can catch them. I think he can.
All right.
So we start with 8 pounds of 2-row.
All right.
And this is for a 5-gallon recipe. Yes, figuring about 75% efficiency.
Sure.
All right. So 8 pounds of 2-row, 5 pounds of caramel 20. And a pound of corn sugar. And then for hops, we're doing a 3-ounce Warrior Edition at 60. And then a 2-ounce Simcoe Edition at 30. And 3 ounces of Amarillo at Flame Out. Do you want to know some numbers here?
I'm just wondering if you're making fun of me.
You want to know some numbers real quick?
Yes, go for it.
We're shooting for an OG of 1073, which is right in the middle of that range, the double IPA range.
Okay.
With the final gravity a little on the high side at 1017. An ABV of 7.34, which is right where we want to be. And 199.77 IBUs with an SRM of 12.
Wow. Where do I start? Let's talk about that crystal malt edition.
You see, I really like the color, and I figure we should have some sweetness to kind of balance out these 200 IBUs.
Have you ever heard the term cloying? So you said 5 pounds?
Yeah.
5 pounds is way too much. You're gonna knock about at least 3 pounds off and replace it with more base malt.
Why?
Because does it really give a final gravity that low? It shouldn't, I don't think.
Oh, that's why I added the pound of corn sugar. Didn't that buddy out?
Oh my god. No, okay, so you want to add that because that's where you're going to be getting your fermentable sugars. And in many ways, you could probably nix that sugar addition. You don't necessarily have to if you don't want to, I guess, but you could.
Okay.
And it would probably leave a fuller tasting beer because some sugars have a tendency to give an astringent alcohol flavor if used in too great a quantities.
All right.
Hops. Where do I start? way too.
But I really like bitter beers.
Yeah, but you're talking about like swallowing a Brillo pad.
Yeah, but more is better, isn't it?
Wrong. There are limits to what the tongue can actually taste in reference to bitterness, and
which is right around 100 IBUs. For those of you who don't know.
Yeah, and that blows that completely out of the water. As far as the
3 ounces of Warrior at 60 added 145 IBUs.
Yeah, you could probably cut out 2 ounces.
Yeah, no, I would do maybe an ounce, maybe even half an ounce, depending on what I'm looking for.
Yeah, for the double IPA, I think that's like 60 to 90.
Yeah,
IBUs, right in there. So you're about 2.5 times that.
Yeah.
So that really is just entirely unnecessary. Simcoe has an overly pungent taste, and you should knock that down to a quarter ounce if you're going to use any at all. What was your
Amarillo?
Amarillo.
Yep. If you dry hop with Simcoe, you can get away with a bit more and use it at flame out.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that cat piss
because it's not going to
flavor
as hard
or aroma. Yeah.
Let's see. What was
Amarillo? 2 ounces at flame out or 3 ounces at flame out.
So you have Amarillo, Simcoe, and what was the last
Warrior?
one?
Warrior was what I bittered with. Amarillo was what I flamed out with. I
think that is that a little that those flavor profiles kind of conflict.
Simcoe and Amarillo go fine together.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, super West Coast.
Simcoe, I get usually really earthy, kind of weird spiciness.
I usually get a lot of like big citrus Simcoe, like I guess Simcoe flavor.
Okay. I mean, maybe. Okay. Anyways, what'd you ferment with?
I was just gonna use 1056.
That's probably okay.
Yeah. No. I messed with everything else, but I got the yeast right.
You got the yeast right.
No, but so the way I wrote this is if I was somebody who didn't know, who hadn't done a whole lot of the research and was just looking for these flavors, I kind of knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Because I did have a bunch of 2-row in there.
Yep.
So I read something or heard something at some point that base malt was important. So I used a bunch of that, but I really wanted those like almost like that sweetness to really balance out all this bitterness. So.
Oh, I was also going to say, as far as your crystal edition, your caramel edition, is that if you like that color, you can also get that color with more of the sweetness using less of a darker caramel malt. So if I didn't say that explicitly before, I meant to, and I know you were.
All right, so let's use 5 pounds of 10 Lava Bond.
Yeah, not gonna happen. No, I'm thinking maybe like 1 pound of caramel 100.
Maybe. No, that's way too much. It's way too much caramel in this. You needed if I was really gonna do this recipe and I wanted to use caramel malts in this, and I'm doing 5 pounds, I would bump the 2-row up to probably 11, 12 pounds and use maybe half a pound of Crystal 40.
I was just waiting for you to comment that there is no Crystal 100.
Yeah, well, it's just burnt shit crystal. Like
it goes from 80 to 120.
Yeah, but you could mix them and get a one. I know, but
that's not one. That's 2 of them.
Fuck you, Myles. Just done with your shit. All right. Yeah. So let's hear your recipe.
Okay, this one is called Myles' Awesome Amber because I came up with that name right about now.
All right. Myles is really good at naming things if you haven't figured that out during this entire Shindig. All right, Myles, lay it on me.
I wanted like a nice American amber ale, and I heard that they kind of do citrusy hop flavors sort of going in there, and so this is what I came up with. 9 pounds of amber malt, 1 pound of caramel crystal 20, and then we have 2 ounces of Liberty at 60 minutes, 1 ounce of Cascade at flame out, and then we're going with White Labs 005, WLP 005.
What's the colloquial name for that yeast?
British ale.
British ale. Okay. Well,
do you want some numbers?
Yeah, I'll take some numbers.
Okay. So let's see, original gravity right around 1050.
Okay.
Bitterness at 30 IBUs. Colors on the darker end, but still within just by about that much. 18.1 SRM.
So you're still within the range?
Barely. I think the guide says 18.0.
Okay.
So, and then ABV 4.9.
All right. Now refresh me on amber malt, because that, like, are you using like amber malt or amber malt extract?
No, all grain.
Okay. Okay.
So amber malt.
So like crisp amber.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's a base malt at least. So you're good there. No, crisp amber isn't a base malt.
At least not the one I used in my program here. I bothered to look it up. Amber malt has no diastatic power.
All right. Well, so there's your first problem. So we're gonna fix that for you real quick here. We're just gonna take that amber malt and we're gonna scale it back to you want a 5-gallon recipe and you want to stay in that 1050 range?
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna scale that back to about a pound.
Okay.
And then we're just gonna replace the rest of that with, because you said you were doing 9, right? 9 pounds of that.
I think so. Yeah. All
right. So then I think we're gonna replace that with about, I don't know, probably 8 pounds of 2-row, because you're looking for an American style. So American 2-row with that amber. And I'd have to run the numbers on this because I don't know how close we're gonna get SRM wise, but I think we should be close.
I'm not overly worried about.
Yeah. And then what was the other malt that you said?
1 pound of Crystal 20.
Scale that way back to, well, maybe not way back, but half it.
Yeah.
And if you want that color, maybe do Crystal 40, Crystal 60. And then that was it for your malt bill, right?
Yeah, it was a simple malt bill.
Yeah, simple malt bill. Hop wise, what was your bittering hop?
Liberty. 2 ounces at 60. And
that got you 30 IBUs?
Yes, it did.
Not quite an American amber. I mean, if you really want to use Liberty as your bittering, I would bump it up another ounce to put you. That'd probably put you in the 40, 45 range.
I'll give you a hint. 4.3 alpha.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be spendy, but you can do it. I'm not saying don't use Liberty for your bittering, because you can use whatever you want for your bittering hop.
Yep.
No. So I mean, if you want to spend $8 on hops just for your bittering edition, go ahead. You are welcome to do that.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
And what was your flame out edition?
1 ounce Cascade.
That works for me, actually.
Yep.
I would see that.
Yeah.
And then the British ale yeast, I would switch it out for something. I mean, especially if you're going for an American style beer, go for an American yeast.
Thank you. Yeah, that's about what I had. Could have been better. I guess the other thing I was looking for is, as far as amber ale goes, Liberty is also an English hop.
Yeah, but you're using it for bittering, so it's not gonna.
I know. So it was English, and 2, it was really low alpha.
Yeah. Again, I mean, both things that you probably don't want to do, but not recipe breaking.
No, not really.
I mean, as long as you're getting your IBUs out of your bittering, it doesn't really matter what you use.
That's a lot of hops.
Oh no, it's a terrible amount. You should not use that much. But it looks really cool when you just dump a bunch of hops into a thing. So
there is something mildly satisfying about it.
Like, oh, what's this? 30 things of hops. All right, let's do this.
No, I guess you mentioned it, and I neglected to put it in here, or I neglected to read it somewhere. One of the first things I do when reading a recipe is, I read the style guideline, just like literally out of the BJCP. I just kind of go right through it, and then I kind of just Google a bunch of recipes and take some mental notes. Like, well, all of them are using American two-row, so maybe that's something I should consider. All of them have at least some caramel addition.
Just when you're Googling recipes, make sure you're going to a source that you trust, because there's a lot of bad recipes out there.
No, that's true, and that's why I look at a whole bunch of them from different places, so I can kind of mix and match the things that are common between all of them.
Yeah,
and then by the time you're done looking at 10 or 15 of them, you feel a lot more capable of being able to come up with something that starts to resemble the trend. And then you feel more confident in what you've come up with.
Oh, for sure.
So,
all right. Well, I think that about wraps up our discussion for this evening.
I think so too.
Oh no.
What'd you do? Did you break it?
No, I moved things around.
Why would you do this in your
I'm Myles. I need everything to be perfect all the time.
That's because I'm perfect all the time.
No, you're not, Myles. Not even close. Anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in. And just a heads up, we are starting to do these live again. So every Monday evening at 9 p.m. Central. Yeah, no, I got that. Thank you for your hands.
You stuttered.
No, I didn't stutter.
You paused.
I paused. There was a pause. Okay, and now it's a whole thing. Anyway, yeah, so 9 p.m. Central. You can check out all the links at blindnewstudios.com/live, or head on over to youtube.com/blindnewstudios and get the video feed, or mixler.com/blind-ninja-studios for an audio-only feed. And you can join in the chat, ask us questions while we're on the air, and we'll try to get to them as soon as we can. All right, if you want to support us, head on over to blindnewstudios.com/. No, hang on. Head on over to blindnewstudios.com, click on the Patreon link at the bottom of the page, or head on over to patreon.com/blindnewstudios. There's a lot of links here, man. And the beer's not helping. And you can become a donor there, or if you're going to do any Amazon shopping, head on over to blindnewstudios.com, click on the Amazon link at the bottom of the homepage. And that way you can do your regular Amazon shopping, and we get a bit of a kickback from Amazon for sending you there. If you have any questions, comments, show ideas, or what have you, go ahead and shoot us an email at feedback@blindnewstudios.com, or you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/blindnewstudios. You can follow us on Twitter at blind_ninja.
I've got a quick question. Can you say that 3 times fast?
I've already said it once today. And I say it every week, multiple times. It's a problem. All right, guys. I think that's about it. I'll see you guys next week.